Welcome everyone to the New Fly Fisher. I'm your host, Colin McEwen. In today's show, it's my great pleasure to have with us one of the true legends of the fly fishing world, Joe Humphreys. Joe is considered a master of many fly fishing disciplines, but is probably best known for his love of educating anglers of all ages, especially children and young adults. In this episode, Joe will share some of his expertise and reflect on a life dedicated to the sport. This promises to be a great show, so stay with us and get to know the master of fly fishing, Joe Humphreys. Let him go back to live another day.
And away he goes. Great fish. Wow.
Oh, baby. Look at that fish.
Stop, wiggle, on the way down.
The New Fly Fisher has been made possible thanks to the support of Orvis Sporting Traditions, Islander Precision Reels, Scientific Anglers, Rail Riders Outdoor Clothing, the toughest clothes on the planet, Net Staff, the world's first wading staff and net.
What the hell? We'll fish together. Yeah.
In this special episode of the New Fly Fisher, we're going to pay homage to one of the true masters of fly fishing, Joe Humphreys. Joe lives in beautiful State College in Pennsylvania with his wife, Gloria. He is an internationally known angler, conservationist, author, and educator. He taught fly fishing for more than 40 years, including directing Penn State University's angling program for nearly 20 years. His books and videos have helped educate thousands of people on the essentials of fly fishing. Even today, in his mid-80s, people flock to hear him speak and learn from the master. Joe has guided many celebrities, including former President Jimmy Carter. Joe recalls that President Carter had a strong willingness to learn and joked that nymphing was much like dealing with Congress. One celebrity Joe remembers fondly is actor Liam Neeson, who he took to Spruce Creek for the famous green drake hatch. Joe speaks about his early years of fly fishing and how he discovered where trout eat most of their food.
When you think about a trout's diet, 90% of it's underwater. And so you have caddis, you have mayflies, you have stoneflies, you have minnows, you have a myriad of things, and they're all downstairs. Now, what really led me into nymphing was this. The limestone streams of central Pennsylvania, we had hatches, but the spring-fed streams had the greatest portion of what? Crest bugs, freshwater shrimp, and these were year-round. The trout fed year-round on them. And so when I went fishing and I wanted to try to catch a fish, the first thing I learned was what was there and how best to imitate it. A trout was feeding. I couldn't catch him. I came back later. I scared the fish, came back later, grabbed a handful of vegetation. It was alive with freshwater shrimp. Some of them had a touch of orange. So the smallest hook I had was a 16. I got some thread, orange thread from my mother's sewing box. I fashioned what I thought was something like it. Came back the next day, saw that same fish feeding, threw the shrimp at him, and it wasn't even close to him, but he moved over, picked it up, and I caught it. But that was the start of nymphing for me, and I realized the more I could imitate the crest bugs and the shrimp and get it to the fish wherever they were, then I could catch fish and catch more fish. I jumped on the bicycle put the fish in a basket, and sung a song to the top of my lungs the whole way home. I was so excited. So the moral of the story, it goes like this. I found that what I looked at and what it really looked like, I went after it, took it home, and stayed with it till I got basically what it was. Then I realized also that when I was casting, the arm had to be out of it. The wrist had to be there. And so I learned to shorten the stroke, and with the shortened stroke, I developed line control. And the more line control I had, the more proficient drifts, the more fish I caught. So it was an ongoing process, and I'm still learning at 84. In central Pennsylvania, we have many spring creeks. And my plan of attack today, within these waters we have freshwater shrimp and crest bugs because it is spring fed. The water temperatures are conducive and the water quality is conducive to these insects. But also at this time, we have mayflies hatching. This is the time when the sulfurs are popping. And the fishermen are keyed to the sulfur hatch, and this is their mentality. And rightfully so. However, this morning, there are no sulfurs moving. And to try to go on top of the sulfur, or even a sulfur nymph, they may not be turning on to. But these fish see crest bugs and freshwater shrimp daily, 24 hours a day, day in and day out, throughout the whole year. They're here. And that is the basis of their food supply. So that's my plan of attack today. I'm gonna put a crest bug on. I'm gonna work these waters and see if I can find a trout that's willing to take one. I'm using a double taper fly line. My leader is a little over 9.5 foot. It's tapered from 17 thousandths down to 3x 8 thousandths. When you're fishing and I'm not using the suspension system, I'm going and rolling the bottom after them today. And so what happens is this. If your nymphs are going by you too fast, add weight. If you're hanging up every cast, delete. And when the waters you're fishing, let them be the guide relative to how much weight, because each area does change with depth and speed. And I know it can be a pain to constantly change, but the name of this game is flexibility. With this casting stroke, watch my hand. I stop it here, straight up. I take my hand forward and I tap. And that little tap with the squeeze and the thumb pushing down gives me this cast. I call it the downer and the upper, meaning I'm driving the nymph down while the rod tip stays high. So my cast is here, there. The nymphs enter the water forcefully. And I lead the nymphs through the drift with the rod tip. You're gonna look for depth, and so I have great control from rod tip to nymph the whole way through the drift. And the takes can be so subtle. Your line can just hesitate. It can just stop slightly. So it's difficult at times because the bottom and the trout can be synonymous. You say, well, no, it stopped, I'm on the bottom. No, it stopped because the trout intercepted it, or it could be the bottom. But you don't want to take that chance. So you strike a lot without catching fish. So that's the name of the game. Take it. I didn't see that take. I just did exactly what I said I was going to do. I was going to strike impulsively. This is a nice fish. And here we have a fish. And the adjustment, one adjustment. Oh yeah, made the difference. And so, to me, this is exciting. The fact that I adjusted. The fact that I thought through the food chain. The fact that I have a fish that intercepted and cooperated with me. The drift was so short in the productive area, I simply lifted. Take it, and that's a good tip. Because sometimes with strike indicators and you're watching for it to stop or bob or go under, it doesn't happen. The trout has already picked it up and dropped it. The split shot on the leader are divided, and for a reason. When they're divided, they roll on the stream bottom and give your nymph a much more natural look. If they're pulled together tightly and they're all balled up together in one bunch, then they have a tendency to drop behind rocks and you're going to get far more hang-ups. So you want that natural, nice bottom roll. So I'm going to divide. Now, the other factor is if and I do have a little overhand knot, and it's right here at my thumb, and it will not hurt your leader with leader strength. But what it does, now the split shot will not slide down, and it gives you that separation that you need. Now, I will use my arm here. I'm going to extend the cast. I'm going to reach a little bit because I want to cover this pocket. So I will drift my hand and arm probably a little bit further forward. Much better fish. Now that's line control. From the get-go, back to me. And so as I play this fish, which is a larger fish, side pressure, side pressure. You want to have the fish spend as much energy as quickly as it can. This is one pretty brown trout. I will show him briefly to the camera for a real great shot, but this is just a gorgeous fish. The only reason I gave you that fly rod because I know you don't have a license.
Since he was a young boy, Joe has loved fly fishing on the small mountain streams of Pennsylvania. These little creeks are filled with wild native brook trout, which are like gems in the forest. Joe speaks about his early education and learning on these mountain streams.
This is a stream, spring-fed stream that was my classroom. This is where I learned so many things about the fishing game, where trout would lie, the pecking order, the food chain. And so this was my classroom. And it was a wonderful classroom as a young lad. And I remember catching a 14-inch trout, and I was so thrilled. And I put that trout in my basket on my bicycle and sang to the top of my voice the whole way home because that was a thrilling day for me to take a trout on my own homemade pattern.
Small stream fly fishing can be very difficult. The overhanging branches, snags, and the need for stealth and cover. These are but a few of the difficulties that face small stream anglers. Through the decades, Joe has developed many skills that have helped him deal with these small stream challenges. Today, his techniques are used by thousands of fly fishers who love to fish in these little gardens of Eden. Let's listen to the master as he teaches us some essentials.
I'm gonna have to shoot some distance here, and I'll stay back. I'm not in the best of position, but I'm gonna use the rod as a bow. Now I'm going to figure eight the leader and the line with a hand and twist. Coming up the leader and coming up to the fly line. I'm looking at what I have to shoot, the distance. The nymph is hanging below in the leader. Now, the long fingers. Here's my cast in my hand. The long fingers come over. Here's your power, not just thumb and first finger. The long fingers come over. There's your power. Okay. And you want always your hands together on the fly rod in prayer, fist to fist. I pull this cast the whole way back to my ear and release it. All right, now, once the fly is in the water, now I have the tension in the cast that I can start working upstream. And we have a beautiful little brook trout. Yes. Yes. I got a couple of decent drifts in that gut. We might have already spooked him here, I don't know. But I know one thing, I'm not getting down nearly deep enough in there. So I've got to get a little split shot on here to get down. So here's an adjustment. When you're working a thicket, your casting stroke has got to be no more than a squeeze, because if you start to push and shove, you're going to hang on everything, because your fly lifts. When you do this, your fly lifts with weight. If you do this, you have a shot at it. So it's going to be a very, very, very short casting strokes. So I'm going to flip the line in the water, get control here, short little cast. There he is. There he is. That's the brook trout of the year right here. What a... Oh! I lost him, but I got him. That was great. That was a great brook trout.
Joe Humphreys is truly a fly fishing legend who has given more to the sport than he has taken. Joe had some final reflections on his life of learning and teaching that are quite profound.
A lot of the things that I have done in the past and have, I think, in a way, created some things, some cast. I call it downer and uppers. They call it today high sticking. We were doing this, and I was doing this when I was, even in my high school years and in my collegiate years, I started to really fine-tune it, and I was able to fish the bottom and really work a trout stream proficiently. And I think I've passed a lot of that on. I like to think about what this sport has given to me. It's given me a wonderful way of life. It's the greatest therapy I could ever have. And through its tuition, I've met a lot of wonderful people. People that have given to me, people that we've had exchanged. I like to think that I'm helping the younger generations now. I like to work with children. It's the future of this game. We've got to work with these kids. We've got to bring them along. And you get so much back. It's such a giving thing. And you receive whatever you give. When you're working with people, and particularly children, you get it back 100-fold. It's so rewarding, and it's so much fun. When I'm too old, and I'm going down the other side of the mountain now. And when I'm too old and I can't make that roll cast, or I can't fish that brush, the only thing I have left are memories. And I've built these wonderful memories over a lifetime. So when you see me sitting in a rocking chair with a smile on my face, you'll know that I'm still catching that trout on Thompson Run and reliving that day, riding home on my bicycle, singing to the top of my lungs. That's probably what I'm thinking.
Be sure to subscribe. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're putting out new videos just for you.